Again, this is another sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. It's also time for the physical and spiritual manifestation of the Book of Revelation. The dangers of nuclear winter. In the early 1980s, American and Russian scientists working together outlined a stark vision of the Cold War future. In a battle between the two superpowers, smoke from fires ignited by nuclear explosions would be so dense that it would block out the sun, turning the earth cold, dark, and dry, killing plants and preventing agriculture for at least a year. This dystopia became known as nuclear winter. We haven't heard much about this apocalyptic future in recent years, but the research into the destructive potential of a war involving nuclear weapons has continued. Even with the reduced nuclear arsenals that the United States and Russia agreed to in 2010, we have the ability not only to set off instantaneous destruction, but also to push global temperatures below freezing, even in summer. Crops would die and starvation could kill most of humanity. But it is not just the superpowers that threaten the planet. A nuclear war between any two countries using 100 Hiroshima-sized atom bombs, less than half of the combined arsenals of India and Pakistan, could produce climate change unseen in recorded human history. This is why we should celebrate the recent agreement with Iran, which may stop it from producing a nuclear weapon. And it is also why we should look with deep alarm at North Korea's recent launching of a rocket to put a satellite in orbit in what is believed to be an effort to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile. 9 countries have nuclear arsenals with an estimated total of 15,695 weapons. Approximately 94% are held by the United States and Russia. Except for North Korea, the other nuclear nations have each kept their arsenals at roughly 100 to 300 weapons. All have the destructive power to alter the global environment. These weapons have not been a deterrent to war or aggression, but even if you think they can be, how many would you have to use? The answer is probably 1. There are simply too many nuclear weapons in the world, by as much as a factor of 1,000, for anyone, anywhere, to be safe from the potential effects of even a small nuclear war. The chance that nuclear weapons would be used by mistake, in a panic after an international incident, by a computer hacker, terrorist, or by a rogue leader of a nuclear nation can be eliminated only by the removal of the weapons themselves. Scientists involved in the initial research that discovered the potential for nuclear winter say that more modern and advanced climate modeling has confirmed the initial findings and shown that the effects would last for more than a decade. The reason is that smoke from nuclear conflagrations could rise as high as 25 miles into the atmosphere, where it would be protected from rain and take at least 10 years to dissipate. In more recent research, scientists looked at the potential impact of a nuclear war between India and Pakistan, with each country detonating 50 Hiroshima-sized bombs. These explosions would produce so much smoke that temperatures would plunge, shortening growing seasons and threatening the global food supply. Calculations based on how crops grow in different weather showed that wheat, rice, corn, and soybean production could be reduced by 10% to 40% overall for 5 years. The ozone layer would also be depleted, allowing more ultraviolet radiation to reach the Earth's surface. Hopefully, perhaps, this continuing research on the effects of even a so-called small nuclear war will highlight the threat to the planet in the same way that visions of a nuclear winter did more than 3 decades ago for Russian and American leaders. when the total number of nuclear weapons peaked at about 70,000. As Ronald Reagan put it in 1985, a great many reputable scientists are telling us that such a war could just end up in no victory for anyone because we would wipe out the earth as we know it. Mikhail S. Gorbachev, the last leader of the Soviet Union, echoed Reagan's comment in an interview in 2000. Models made by Russian and American scientists showed that nuclear war would result in a nuclear winter that would be extremely destructive to all life on Earth. The knowledge of that was a great stimulus to us to reduce the size of nuclear arsenals in both countries. The Obama administration's goal is to work for the elimination of nuclear weapons with no specific timetable. But President Obama does not need a treaty with the Russians to take this action. He can just follow the lead of President George H.W. Bush, who unilaterally reduced America's nuclear arsenal as the Soviet Union was disintegrating. So then, with less than a year left in office, President Obama could add to his legacy by sending a similar signal to the Russians today. We could reduce our arsenal from roughly 7,000 weapons to 1,000, eliminating land-based missiles and outlining plans to further reduce air and submarine-based missiles. Mr. Obama said himself in 2009 that the existence of thousands of nuclear weapons is the most dangerous legacy of the Cold War, and that the United States, as the only nation to have used these weapons, had a moral responsibility to seek a world without them. We have to insist, he said, yes, we can. In other words, there's still way too many nuclear weapons all around the world. And actually, even one is too much. Because it still comes back to the question of what kind of world do we want to leave to the future generations? And that should be a very important question to ask. Again, Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings and leaders of the east might be prepared. Yes, it's time for the physical and spiritual manifestation of the book of Revelation, and all these are more signs. And this is what I see, think, and feel. It's time for prophecy to be fulfilled.